Thanks a lot, Greg. So this is a presentation of the task 3 in the entry-level driver training for equipment maintenance operators. Task 3 is really documenting the process for joining the training provider registry and also going over the steps that each state will need to maintain compliance with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration regulation for entry-level driver training. So at this point, we'll pass it over to Scott to go through the task 3 results.
Thank you, Matt. So as he mentioned, task 3 is basically the training provider registry guide. And what we're doing is kind of laying out the steps that you will need if you choose to continue CDL training for your new hires or any upgrades from a B to an A, and maintaining that compliance. So we're going to go through this guide, and it includes both initially registering and being added to that training provider registry, as well as documentation requirements of any CDL applicants that come through your training. We'll identify the key steps and associated timelines with those steps and cover some key considerations, including IT record-keeping needs, any process changes, organizational changes that might be necessary, as well as hiring, some potential start dates you need to take into consideration for train the trainer materials and the self-certification process. When it comes to TPR or training provider registry certification, each training location must be registered separately with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. So while some member agencies may have one centralized training location in the state where all CDL applicants go through, we do understand some locations may have several districts throughout the state where training occurs. Each of those locations must be registered separately. When you do register, you have to self-certify that you are following the appropriate training curriculum that is set forth in the federal regulations, that being 49 CFR 380 subparts F and G. And that also means you have to self-certify that you meet the facilities criteria of the federal regulations, the trainers meet the criteria, and that you also self-certify you meet all applicable state laws in whichever state this training is occurring. And you also are allowing FMCSA to audit your program at any time. When you go to register, you need to electronically submit the entry-level driver training registration form to the TPR website. And at that time, you will also self-certify all of the criteria that I just mentioned. And you will also require that all of your applicants will abide by federal regulations, which includes having a valid commercial learner's permit. And if your state requires state employees to have a valid medical card, that will be necessary as well. We do understand some states waive that requirement, but if it is required, then the applicants will need the valid medical card as well. Online training must be prepared and delivered by an appropriate theory instructor. And you also self-certify that all behind-the-wheel training will be provided by the same provider. And what that means is, for states that may have multiple training locations, a CDO applicant could take the theory instruction at one location and then could take the behind-the-wheel instruction at a second location. However, when it comes to behind-the-wheel instruction, both the road portion and the range portion must be provided at the same location. So the range being the backing exercises and the road being the on-road skills. They have to be conducted at the same location and cannot be split between training provider sites. When it comes to maintaining certification, you have to biannually update your entry-level driver training provider registration form through the website. And you have to update any name changes, address, contact information, the training offered, your provider status, and any state licensure, certification, or accreditation that changes. They need to be updated on the TPR website, and those updates need to be made within 30 days of any of that information changing. You must also maintain documentation of your licensure, registration, and certification, as well as maintain all documentation from any CDL applicants that come through your system. And Again, FMCSA is able to audit your training at any time. When it comes to submitting driver data, as CDL applicants complete your training program, within 48 hours of successful completion, you must upload their records to the training provider registry website. Those records would include name, address, contact information, as well as the completion, whatever type of training that may be, whether it was for a Class A, a Class B, or their hazmat endorsement. Whatever training is completed, that must be uploaded. You have two options to do that. You can submit each driver's information manually. So that would be for state agencies that maybe only have a few drivers come through every 6 months to a year. That would probably be your best option. However, for state agencies that have higher throughput numbers for CDL training, it's recommended that you do batch transfers, and that would be from your IT system to the training provider registry. And that is done through the web services toolkit. And in order to set that up, your state agency, your DOT's IT department will have to create that web service interface. There is a handbook on the training provider registry website that details the process for that, and FMCSA will provide a security key to allow you that access. And again, that's recommended if you have high CDL throughput. It'll make it a whole lot easier than having to individually enter each CDL applicant's data. So currently, FMCSA has opened up their web services portal and for testing purposes. So you can currently start setting up your web services interface and begin testing that to ensure it works and complies prior to the new regulation going into effect February 7th, 2022. Some key considerations. Again, when it comes to IT, you need to take that into consideration if you'll be doing electronic submissions versus the manual entry. Consider the FMCSA's developer's guide in that process. You want to review your organizational structure. You may need to add new personnel roles. Maybe you have a training coordinator role that needs to be added that oversees all of your training sites and all of the registration entries and CDL applicants' information that is uploaded. You also need to take into consideration train the trainer. This is recommended for all trainers. As part of this project, we will be providing train the trainer modules. There'll be 2 modules in total. We suggest allowing up to 1 month for the train the trainer to complete all of those modules. We do understand there may be some experienced trainers already there at your state agency. They should be able to complete this train the trainer modules within 1 to 2 days. However, newer trainers, inexperienced trainers, you should allow up to 1 month to complete this training. On this slide here, we have a flow chart. And this kind of outlines the whole process step by step of what you need to know to become compliant to the entry-level driver training regulation. You start in the top left, basic yes/no questions, and that'll move you through the flow chart with all the steps necessary to become a certified training provider, as well as how to upload and the time and when you should upload the CDL applicant's successful completion data. We have listed some time allotments there to help guide you through that process. And this is also going to be a fact sheet that will be part of the Task 5 deliverable that's due at the end of March. That will be a 1-page fact sheet where this flow chart will be on one side and some bullet points will be on the other side as a quick reference guide. And we've also provided a suggested timeline for you to become compliant to the entry-level driver training regulation. It goes step by step through what we've just discussed, from reviewing your organizational structure and potential adjustments for hiring, your IT infrastructure needs, ensuring that your training conforms to the entry-level driver training regulation. It's listed there. That is appendices A through E of the federal regulation, 49 CFR 380 subpart G, provides each of the 5 theory topics and the subtopics contained within. We have the train the trainer modules, ensure that the facilities and your equipment meet the federal regulations to provide training. And then submission of the entry-level driver training provider registration form and self-certification process, FMCSA's compliance review, and then you would be compliant. The dates that we have provided are the dates that you should start, the last possible time that you should start each of these steps to ensure you're compliant by February 7th, 2022. Now, you can begin starting some of these steps now as far as reviewing your organization and IT infrastructure needs, ensuring your training meets the standard. These are tasks that you can go ahead and begin now. The dates provided are the last possible date that you should begin this. And it's also noted the first 4 to 5 tasks you can do concurrently to speed up the process. FMCSA has not given any guidance other than the training provider registry will be available beginning this summer of 2021. But when it comes to their compliance review, they have not provided any feedback on how long that will take. We suggest you allot up to 1 month. The process may be automated and take up to a day or a week, or it may be manually reviewed. That they have not provided feedback on. We're reaching out to some contacts now, and hopefully by the Task 5 deliverable, we'll have a better idea of the timing on their compliance review. But as of now, they're not providing any, so we suggest you allot up to 1 month. And at this point, this wraps up. Again, we will be providing a 1-page fact sheet and a webinar for Task 5 at the end of March. Thank you.